Holy smokes. Look a little bit like a farm kid here with this hat on. How's everyone doing today? So yesterday I talked about connection. Today I'm going to talk about disconnection. And you didn't see my hand movement there because the screen cut part of it off, but it was me pulling my hands apart. For those of you that have the mute off, you won't hear any of this. You'll just see me walking around beside a fence. Anyway, disconnection. So, we talked about connection yesterday, and those of you that listened heard me talk about my run and how fabulous that was. It was great. It was really good. It was really invigorating to have other people wave, say hello, nod, and I talked about how that input of energy, that little oomph, that when that happens, when people do that, it makes a world of a difference. And not only for them, for you. Because it's almost like completing a circuit of energy. And it cycles, and it's so wonderful. And that's the connection we missed in the last 4 years. So, that's the recap. Now I'm going to bring you into the disconnection. And then I'm going to reconnect you again. So the disconnection is where we were. So where we were in the midst of the 3 years. Where were you? Can you remember where you were? I'll tell you where I was. I was still trying to find myself. In fact, I felt like it was worse. I felt like I had been disconnected from everyone around me. I was not allowed to be my true self and to go out into a grocery store or to go out into a park or to go out and just do the everyday stuff. I had that unconscious feeling that was running in the background that was causing me fear. And it felt agonizing at times because waking up to that, you know how I talk about how you crap on yourself every morning and how I've done that in the past. And that's something that I've been working out. Well, times 10, times 11 over the past 3 years. And that's something that you don't work out easily. Disconnection is something that we were socially conditioned to feel. It was through the media. It was through the remembrance, through the parroting of the things that we would tell one another, regardless of where you were and what your beliefs were. We were all doing it. Let's be honest. Let's get down to the dirty here. I did it too. And I would say the things that would end up being the routine, that would end up being the thing that I didn't want to think. And what ended up happening is I created the programs around those programs, get what I'm saying here, which created even more fear. So what did that do? That made me feel isolated. That made me feel disconnected. And what ended up happening down to the root, down to the heart, was that I felt like because I was in the fear, I was creating the hack, I couldn't connect to myself. And without being out there with other people on a regular like we are today, some of us haven't returned to that. I'll talk about that later. But on the regular, where you get out in the parks and you'd see people pass by and you'd say the quick hello, you'd wave, you'd nod. Or you'd get out into the country and you'd see the old farmer and you'd wave on the country road, and you know that was the country thing to do, but that still passed the energy that you needed because that was the people connection. I'm going to get down to it here. The disconnect was that we didn't have the ability during those times, even though we did, we felt we didn't have the ability to gauge how it felt to feel connected, to know that connection for ourselves. And that, my friends, is part of the key, is knowing thyself. What helps you get back to that is the breath work. So for me, it was, how did I get out of this? Let's hash this out a bit. I got out of this by turning off my TV, by escaping, not as a form of escapism, but going away from a lot of the stuff that was coming across on the social media. So it was turning it off every now and then because I could only take it in doses. And I'm sure many of you can relate to that. It was also going underground a bit. And it was also doing my own little meditations. It was me taking my me time that I needed even when my kids were over. It was me taking that more of alone time. It was going out in the park still, but in nature and enjoying that. And I made those efforts to do that. And it was even getting in my car, for God's sakes. It was even getting in my car, going for a drive with my wife even, just to feel like we could connect to something, but outside of the house, and to not feel like we were disconnected on the inside. You feel me here? You feel me? So with that, how many of you can relate? How many of you can relate? So being out here today with the sun, with the trees in the park, know what that connection piece is, because we have, over the last several months, next to a year or more, come back to ourselves because we've been able to reconnect from the disconnected position we were in ourselves. We needed each other. We needed each other. I remember my first crack at going back to work. I was sent to Saskatchewan, a site in Saskatchewan, Saskatchewan, Canada, not Alberta, out of the province. And I leapt at it because it was a chance for me to get to connect to other people in the role that I had, the previous role that I had, which was health and safety. And I got out there, gave toolbox talks, gave safety meeting talks, went over FLHAs. And you don't need to know this jargon, but just know that I had to interface with many people. But what I saw was amazing. I saw men, I saw women, but I saw men talking about their four-wheelers, talking about their hunting trips, talking about fishing, talking about their divorces, their ex-wives, but just really seeing them together. They were excited to be together. And that, my friends, is the connection piece that we did not have over the last 3 years of missing one another. They missed each other. And even the women in that was as well. The ones that were there working. There weren't that many, but they were there, and I will include them because they're very valuable. Were there, and they were connecting to the lot of us. And it was just like this renaissance, as we would say, this renaissance. And everything came back. And I loved that piece. So I went out there to Saskatchewan, I worked, and I found the connection, and it was with them. And it was so lovely. That's why I wanted to talk to you about it. It was so lovely that it made me remember who I was too, and what I bring to the table, and how I facilitate and help people to do that. So at the end of this spiel, how do you feel? At the end of this spiel, how do you feel? I was a poet and I didn't even know it. Well, I'm going to tell you how I feel. I feel great. I feel good about it because I wanted to highlight the disconnect from the connection piece. I wanted to highlight the polarity because I felt it was important. If I talk about one thing, I want to talk about the other with you because it is important to see both sides. It is important to see all angles of this. So the disconnected feeling is something that I help many men achieve to reconnect. It's something that I have helped women with, and I love it. I love doing that. And I want to tell you that for me to be able to reconnect to myself over the last several months from the place of where I was, I grew, baby. I grew. And so did you. So did you. Because you made it here. And my friends, I gotta tell you, if you're at this spot right now and you're watching this video and you know who you are, because you know who I'm talking about, it's you. And we're talking about this right now, you grew too. You grew too. And that means that you're aware of how you feel. That means that you're aware of what I'm talking about in this video. And that means that you're aware of what it feels like to have people around you and to know how you feel about it. And you're starting to tap into that. And I love it. So I'm going to end this video by saying, if many of you resonate with what I'm saying, let's chat. Let's connect. I want to connect with you, or I want to reconnect with you. And some of you know who I'm talking about as well. Don't feel disconnected. Take the time, if you need to, in your disconnect to realize what you need to do to connect. It's just as important. I'll stop there. Feel free to comment below. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Hit the little bell and subscribe right below. Talk to you soon.